Did you know that most people over 60 carry more mental clutter than physical clutter, and it doesn't just live in your thoughts? It shows up in sleepless nights, moments when joy feels just out of reach, even in the subtle aches your doctor can't quite explain. It's like carrying an overstuffed suitcase you never unpack. You may not see it, but you feel it, every morning when you wake up already tired, every evening when your mind replays worries instead of letting you rest. If you've ever felt your thoughts pressing on you like an invisible weight, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube this message matters to you, and it gives you a chance to breathe a little easier today. Here's the truth. Decluttering isn't just about old boxes in the attic or stacks of magazines by the recliner. The heaviest clutter lives in the corners of our minds, regrets we keep revisiting, promises we never fulfilled, voices from the past that still echo louder than they should. And when we finally begin to clear that mental space, something beautiful happens. We feel lighter, calmer, more present in the moments that matter. Stay with me, because in this video, you'll discover how releasing just a few of these hidden burdens can give you back not only your peace of mind, but your joy in living at 60 and beyond. Meet Oswaldine. Oswaldine. It's not a name you hear every day, and that's exactly why I want you to remember her. At 67, she lives in a quiet suburb of Ohio, in the same brick house where she once raised 2 children and taught generations of neighbors' kids to sing as the local choir director. If you visited her home, you wouldn't find towers of boxes or cluttered rooms. In fact, her shelves are neat, her kitchen counters are mostly clear, and her closets are reasonably organized. From the outside, you'd think she had mastered simplicity. But here's what people didn't see, what even she didn't notice at first. Oswaldine wasn't drowning in things. She was drowning in noise. Not the kind you can turn down with a remote or shut out with a door, but the kind that plays on repeat in your mind. Unfinished lists, regrets that circle back in the middle of the night, and the constant hum of what if, and did I do enough, that seemed to follow her everywhere. She told me that some nights, she'd lie awake not because of the creak of her old house, but because she was cataloging every mistake she thought she had made as a mother, every opportunity she felt she had missed, every call she still hadn't returned. By morning, she was tired before her feet even touched the floor. She described it like being conductor of a choir that never stopped singing, a choir made up of anxieties, doubts, and voices from the past. And maybe you felt this too. Maybe your own version of Oswaldine's mental noise comes from the stack of unpaid attention you owe yourself, old friendships you feel guilty for neglecting, projects you swore you'd finish, or worries about the future that sneak into your quiet moments. The truth is, mental clutter doesn't pile up in boxes, it piles up in heartbeats, in the thoughts that crowd out peace. Here's the remarkable part of Oswaldine's journey. When she finally named the real problem, she realized she had more control than she thought. She didn't need to empty her attic or toss half her wardrobe to feel lighter. What she needed was to start clearing space in her mind. Step by step, she began to treat her thoughts like she once treated her choir rehearsals, organizing them, quieting the noise, and giving her attention only to the voices that truly mattered. And as we move forward in this video, I'll use Oswaldine's story as a guide. Because chances are, you've carried your own invisible choir for years. But just like Oswaldine discovered, you can teach that noise to quiet down, and in its place, hear something much more beautiful, your own peace, your own joy, and the sound of a life that still has music left to play. Declutter number 1. The shelf of old regrets. When Oswaldine first began untangling the mental clutter that weighed her down, she realized something surprising. Her heaviest burden wasn't the daily tasks, or even her worries about the future, it was the past. Memories that came with a sigh instead of a smile. Sentences that started with I should have. These regrets had become her invisible baggage. And if we're being honest, almost every senior carries at least a few of these heavy, unspoken should-haves. Think about it. How often do you catch yourself replaying old decisions like a scratched record? Maybe it's the career opportunity you walked away from, the words you wish you'd said to a loved one, or the family gathering where silence spoke louder than apologies. These moments, though long gone, live rent-free in our minds, and the cost is high: peace, joy, and presence in the here and now. Now, let's make it real. Imagine a shelf in your mind, dusty and weighed down with objects. But instead of books or trinkets, each item is a regret. One shelf might hold, "I should have spent more time with my kids when they were young." Another has, "I should have taken better care of my health." Another, "I should have told my parents thank you one more time." Each regret sits there, unmoving, gathering dust, silently taking up mental space. The shelf never empties on its own. You have to be the one to clear it. Here's the simple yet powerful action Oswaldine used. She wrote each regret on a sticky note. Not long sentences, not stories, just a few words that captured the sting. Missed trip with mom. Didn't finish college. Stayed silent. She placed them on a table, looked at them one by one, and then made a choice. One by one, she shredded them. Sometimes, when she felt brave, she burned them safely in her fireplace, watching the paper curl and vanish. She called it her release ritual. Why does this work? Because our minds hold on to regrets like they're unfinished business. When we make them tangible, write them down, see them, and then physically destroy them, we're telling ourselves, this chapter is closed. It's a symbolic act, yes, but also a practical one. Every note destroyed freed up space on Oswaldine's mental shelf. And in that space, she found something new, compassion for herself, and energy to focus on the present. Now, let me ask you, which regret are you ready to clear today? You don't need to write a whole confession, just share one word in the comments. Health. Family. Travel. That one word might be the first step to sweeping dust off your shelf. Because here's the truth, our regrets will never disappear by replaying them. They only lose their grip when we release them. And once you start clearing that shelf, you'll discover how much lighter your mind feels, just like Oswaldine did. For her, it was the beginning of quiet mornings without the same haunting thoughts, and nights where she finally rested instead of rehearsed the past. And for you, it could be the same first step toward peace. Declutter number 2, the pile of unfinished promises. When Oswaldine began clearing out her mental clutter, she stumbled upon something that surprised her even more than her regrets, the heavy pile of promises she had made, not to others, but to herself. You know the ones. I'll call that old friend this week. I'll finally organize those photo albums. I'll start learning Spanish like I always dreamed. At first, they sound harmless, just little goals tucked away for later. But left unfinished, they stack up in the corners of our minds like unopened mail. And over time, the pile grows so high that peace of mind has no room to breathe. Think about your own list. Maybe you promised yourself you'd start walking every morning, or finish that quilt project in the closet, or finally write down your family stories for your grandchildren. Each of these promises sits quietly in the back of your thoughts, waiting for attention. But here's the truth, not every promise deserves to be kept forever. Some were right for another season of your life, but they no longer fit who you are now. And holding on to them only adds weight you don't need. This is where the 3P rule comes in. Pick it, plan it, or pass it on. Pick it. Decide that this promise is important and commit to it fully. No halfway energy, no vague intentions. Plan it. If it matters, schedule it. Put it on the calendar, give it a date and time. Dreams without timelines are just clutter. Pass it on. If it no longer belongs to you, let it go, or hand it to someone who can carry it better. That's exactly what Oswaldine did. 4 years, she carried the weight of a promise to knit 50 scarves for a local charity drive. She had finished only 12, and every time she saw the yarn, guilt whispered in her ear. One day, she realized this was no longer her joy but her burden. So, she gathered the yarn, placed it in a bag, and delivered it to her seniors club. Another woman in the group took up the project with excitement, and Oswaldine felt the weight lift from her shoulders instantly. Here's the emotional truth. Relief doesn't come from doing everything. Relief comes from releasing what you no longer owe yourself. When you pass it on, you're not failing, you're freeing yourself to focus on what truly matters today. So ask yourself, what's sitting in your pile of unfinished promises? Which one can you pick, plan, or pass on this week? Share one in the comments. It might inspire someone else to finally let go of a promise that's been gathering dust in their mind. Because the pile won't shrink on its own. But with each choice you make, you'll uncover more space in your thoughts, and with it, more peace in your life. And that's what decluttering is all about. Declutter number 3, the noise of today's world. Oswaldine used to start her mornings the same way many of us do, turning on the TV for the latest news and checking her phone for messages. It felt harmless, just staying informed and connected. But slowly, she realized the information never stopped. The news cycles repeated the same stressful stories, her phone buzzed with robocalls and scam alerts, and her email was overflowing with health advice that seemed contradictory and confusing. By bedtime, she wasn't calmer, she was wired, worried, and restless. And here's the truth, this kind of noise is a modern clutter. Unlike the regrets of yesterday or the promises of tomorrow, this clutter sneaks in daily. It floods the quiet moments we need for peace. Seniors especially are targeted, endless political drama on TV, non-stop health scare headlines, and scam calls designed to prey on trust. It's no wonder so many people over 60 find themselves anxious without even knowing why. The noise isn't just out there, it's in here, in our minds, replaying on a loop. So how do we declutter this kind of noise? Oswaldine found a simple but powerful solution. She created digital quiet hours. Every evening after 7 p.m., she shut it down. The TV went off, the phone went on silent, the tablet was put away. Instead of letting the noise of the world fill her night, she filled the time with something that actually restored her, reading a comforting book, writing in her journal, listening to her favorite hymns, or just sitting in her porch chair watching the sunset. At first, it felt strange. The silence seemed too quiet, almost empty. But within a week, her sleep improved. Her thoughts slowed down. She stopped feeling like she had to carry the world's chaos in her own chest. The absence of noise became a gift, a space where her own voice, her real priorities, could finally be heard again. So let me ask you, do you already unplug at night, or is this new for you? Let us know in the comments below. You might be surprised how even 1 or 2 hours of digital quiet can transform your evenings. And the best part? It doesn't cost a penny, just a choice. Here's the beauty of decluttering this noise. You begin to realize the world doesn't end if you don't hear every headline or answer every call. In fact, your world begins to feel calmer, safer, and lighter when you step away from it. That's what Oswaldine discovered, and it gave her the freedom to end her days with peace instead of pressure. But the next declutter, the one we'll talk about after this, is the one seniors often tell me feels like a spiritual awakening. And it just might surprise you. Declutter number 4, the closet of other people's voices. When Oswaldine thought about clutter, she always pictured dusty attics and crowded drawers. But one day, she discovered an even heavier kind of clutter, one that couldn't be boxed up or hauled to the curb. It lived in her memory, in her emotions, in the echo of other people's voices that had followed her for decades. If you're over 60, chances are you've collected these voices too. Maybe it's the critical tone of a parent who never believed in you. Maybe it's the unspoken expectation from your children that you'll always be available, even when you're exhausted. Or maybe it's the louder society that whispers, "You're past your prime," or "Stay in your lane." These voices become like jackets hanging in a closet, each one put there by someone else, and yet you end up wearing them without question. Over time, the closet gets so stuffed with coats that aren't yours that there's no room left for your own. Here's the visualization. Picture standing in front of that crowded closet. Each jacket is labeled with a voice that doesn't belong to you. One says, "You're not strong enough." Another says, "Don't embarrass yourself by trying new things." Another whispers, "Your worth is in what you can do for others, not for yourself." Imagine how heavy it feels to wear them all at once. It's no wonder so many seniors walk through life carrying a weight that doesn't belong to them. Oswaldine carried one jacket longer than she realized. Her late father's words, "You'll never amount to much," had settled deep in her mind when she was young. Even though she built a meaningful career in music and raised a loving family, those words stayed like an old coat at the back of the closet. She didn't even notice how much it still held her back until she caught herself hesitating to join a local community choir. The joy was there, but so was the echo, "You're not good enough." That's when she tried something different. She wrote down the voice in clear words, "You'll never amount to much." She looked at it, held it, and then said out loud, "That voice doesn't live here anymore." It felt awkward at first, almost silly. But as she repeated it, she realized she was taking ownership of her closet. She was deciding which jackets to keep and which to throw out. And when she tossed that particular one aside, she signed up for choir the very next week. The transformation was immediate. Her laughter returned, her confidence grew, and her evenings were once again filled with music instead of silence. Here's the action step. Take a quiet moment, write down one voice that has been holding you back, and read it out loud. Then, say with authority, "That voice doesn't live here anymore." Tear the paper up, crumple it, throw it away, whatever makes it feel final. You may be surprised at how much space you free up in your closet when you stop carrying other people's weight. Because here's the emotional truth. Your story at 60 and beyond isn't meant to be narrated by anyone else's voice. It's yours to write, yours to sing, yours to live fully. And once you declutter the closet of voices that don't belong, you'll finally hear the most important sound of all, your own, strong and clear. Now, as freeing as this step is, the final declutter we're about to explore may be the most practical and the most transformative, because it touches the way you live every single day. And for many seniors, it's the one shift that makes all the others possible. Declutter number 5, the calendar full of shoulds. When people think of aging, they often picture wide-open days of leisure. But ask most seniors, and you'll hear a very different story. The calendar, instead of being empty, is often more crowded than ever. Doctor appointments, physical therapy sessions, babysitting grandchildren, community volunteering, church committees, neighborhood gatherings, even endless errands that somehow multiply overnight. Before long, every square on the calendar is filled. And here's the twist. The clutter isn't in the attic or the garage, it's in the schedule. A cluttered calendar can be every bit as heavy as a cluttered room. That was the case for Oswaldine. After retiring from her decades as a choir director, she thought life would slow down. Instead, she found herself saying yes to everything, being the on-call grandma, joining 3 committees at church, and agreeing to help her neighbors whenever they needed a ride. At first, she felt useful and needed. But soon, she realized something was missing. Even though her days were full, they weren't nourishing her. She had space for everyone else, but no space for herself. And here's the insight that finally shifted things for her. Every should on her calendar was a tiny thief. I should help with this. I should attend that meeting. I should say yes, even though I'm tired. Over time, those shoulds left her drained. Her joy, the spark she once found in music, in quiet reflection, in simple walks outside, was squeezed to the edges of her days, often pushed out entirely. That's when she discovered the power of what she called the golden hour ritual. It was simple, but transformative. Every single day, she reserved one sacred hour just for herself. Not for obligations, not for commitments, not for shoulds. This was a time she treated as untouchable. During her golden hour, she sometimes journaled about her life, sometimes walked in the park listening to birdsong, sometimes sat with her favorite records playing. The activity didn't matter as much as the principle. The hour was hers, a reminder that her well-being deserved space on the calendar, too. At first, it felt selfish to her. But soon, she realized it wasn't selfish at all, it was fuel. That 1 hour made her more present with her grandchildren, more centered at church, more joyful in her friendships. She wasn't pouring from an empty cup anymore. She had filled herself first. Here's the action step for you. Look at your own calendar. Where is there room, just 1 hour, for you? If you can't find it, ask yourself which should can be moved, cancelled, or simplified. Protect that hour like you would a doctor's appointment. Because in truth, it is a kind of appointment with your own soul. So let me ask you, what's one activity you'd love to reclaim for yourself if you had one golden hour every day? Share it in the comments. You might find that other viewers are craving the same moments you are, and your answer could inspire someone else to say yes to themselves. Because when you finally declutter your calendar, you discover something life-changing. Time isn't about how much you give away, it's about making sure you save a little for the person who matters most. And that person is you. When Oswaldine first began this journey, her nights were restless. She tossed and turned, haunted by old regrets, overwhelmed by unfinished promises, overstimulated by endless noise, burdened by other people's voices, and worn down by a calendar crammed with shoulds. Her days looked full, but inside, she felt empty. It wasn't the kind of clutter anyone else could see, it was invisible, but it was heavy. Step by step, she began to release those mental weights. She cleared the shelf of regrets by honoring the past but refusing to let it control the present. She sorted through her pile of unfinished promises, deciding which to pick, which to plan, and which to pass on. She shut off the noise of today's world, giving herself digital quiet hours where peace could return. She opened the closet of voices, named the ones that didn't belong, and shut the door on them for good. And she created her golden hour ritual, finally giving herself permission to exist on her own calendar. The transformation was undeniable. Within weeks, her anxious nights became peaceful mornings. She woke up lighter, no longer carrying the same invisible weight. She told me once, when you declutter your mind, you don't just create space for peace, you create space for joy to walk back in. And that's exactly what happened. She laughed more. She sang more. She rediscovered the beauty in simple things: morning coffee on the porch, a walk with a neighbor, a hymn sung not for performance but for the soul. And here's the part that matters most: her story isn't unique. This isn't just Oswaldine's path. It can be yours too. At 60 and beyond, life isn't about holding tighter to what was. It's about releasing what no longer serves you and reclaiming the joy that's been waiting underneath. Your 60s aren't about losing time, they're about reclaiming it. Every moment you clear from clutter is a moment you can finally live with clarity, presence, and meaning. So if this video lifted even a little of your mental weight, don't keep it to yourself. Someone you love, someone your age, maybe even older, is carrying their own invisible burdens right now. Share this video with them. Be the friend who says, you don't have to carry it all anymore. And before you go, let's make this a movement. White right pointing backhand index like this video if you believe in living lighter. White right pointing backhand index subscribe to Wise Aging Seniors so you never miss the next step toward freedom and joy. White right pointing backhand index and share this video with a friend who deserves a lighter, freer mind today. Because the truth is, none of us has to walk into our later years weighed down by clutter we can't even see. We can choose to release it. We can choose peace. And we can choose to let joy back in. That's the gift of decluttering your mind at 60 and beyond, the gift of living free.